بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيبنا وحبيب رب العالمين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم تنكح المرأة لأربع لمالها ولحسبها ولجمالها ولدينها فاظفر بذات الدين تربت يداك متفق عليه. صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ما قال ربنا وخالقنا ورازقنا من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا مولانا محمد عبدك ورسولك النبي الأمي نبي الرحمة كما تحب وترضاه عدد ما تحب وترضاه كلما ذكره الذاكرون وكلما غفل عن ذكره الغافلون. Respected elders, brothers, sisters and friends, 2 weeks ago, last time I gave the khutbah, we spoke about the topic of zina, adultery and fornication, and how this is a plague that is afflicting all of humanity, such that most Western countries, the majority of children are born outside of wedlock, to the extent that in France, they passed some sort of law, or they tried to pass a law, in which it's not allowed for a person to get a paternity test on their wife's child if they suspect that it's not their child. But you could see this in the news. It's not anything big. It's not anything hidden or conspiracy. It was in the news. Now, this fitna, this fire, this plague, and it is a plague because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said it's a means of diseases spreading in the ummah. We see it today with STDs and other types of things. The Muslim ummah is not free of this either. The Muslim ummah has also been afflicted by this. I mentioned some stats last time done by an organization in Canton, Michigan, FYI, that over 50% of college students have said that they have engaged in zina. Right? College students, from which universities are they taking these surveys from? Wayne State, Oakland University, Ann Arbor, Oakland College, places around here, right? Over 50% say that they're comfortable enough to say that they've committed zina, although it's anonymous. And then more than a high percentage, they also say that even though they haven't done it, they have thought about it. They've been tempted to do so. So we talked about different ways to stop this. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he laid out the principle. He said, "Ya ma'shar al-shabab, man istata'a minkum al-ba'ata falyatazawwaj, wa man lam yastati' fa inna lahu alayhi sawmun, or fa alayhi sawmun fa inna lahu wija." O kama qal. That, O youth, you must get married if you're able to. فَإِنَّهَا أَغَضُّ لِلْبَصَرِ وَأَحْصَنُ لِلْفَرْجِ. Because it causes you to lower your gaze and it makes you more chaste. And if you're not able to, then fast, because fasting will be a shield. We learn two broad things here. Number one, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he encourages early marriage on the condition that the person is ready to get married. Ready to get married means two things. It means financially ready, it also means emotionally ready. And I would add physically, so you could say three things. It could be that a person is physically ready, but they're not financially ready, and they're not emotionally ready. Or they might be emotionally and physically ready, but not financially. What happens in a case like that? If the parents are able to, the parents should try to help out in whatever way they can, because that's better than letting your child fall into zina. Hadith in Bayhaqi that I also mentioned last time. Hazrat Umar radiyallahu an, he says that if a child is ready to get married and the parents do not get them married, then if he commits a sin, the sin is on the father of the child. The person has their own sin. وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةُ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. They'll have to answer to Allah for the sin, but the father would have played a place in that sin. Especially if the thing that's holding up the marriage is ridiculous cultural norms that we have. Older sibling hasn't gotten married yet, right? Oh, well, this person hasn't worked for 5 years in their field, right? These types of things. If for those reasons, if you're keeping your child from getting married, then there's a warning for you in the hadith. That's one thing. But what happens if they're financially ready, physically ready, but not emotionally ready? Rasulullah ﷺ gave another solution. And that is fasting. Fasting in the general sense, and also it means patience. That means for youth in high school. I'm just talking today, it's not like an inspirational lecture. But what it is gonna be, inshallah, it'll be informative. And I hope everybody here is paying attention, because if you are not married, inshallah, this will come in use one day. And if you are married, inshallah, Allah will bless you with children. You're gonna have to get them married one day as well, right? So inshallah, this will serve as some general broad guidelines that can be followed in the pursuit of marriage. Okay, so now Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, be patient. So for youth, you're in high school, you're physically ready to get married, right? Physically you're ready. Are you financially ready? No. Are you emotionally ready? You think that you're emotionally ready, but I'll tell you right now, you're not emotionally ready to get married, right? The high schooler, your thought changes 100 times. You're 1 month, this is the big fad. In 2 months, this is the big fad. In 3 months, this is your life goal. After you go to one lecture, you hear one thing, you talk to one friend, all of a sudden your whole life goal changes. You're not emotionally ready to get married. So at that time, what do you have to do? You have to be patient. Patient and work to get yourself emotionally and financially ready. You'll probably be physically ready, right? So these are some ground rules. So now how does a person go about getting married? This is a question that we get a lot over here. Many people say, I'm trying to get my child married. Or the person looking to get married will come themselves. They'll give you a bio data and they'll say, okay, look for someone for me. How can a person go along? What should they look for in marriage? How can they find a partner? Again, these are general guidelines that inshallah we could take. Number one, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, and this hadith is misunderstood a lot. I read this at the beginning. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he narrates, and Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, they've recorded this hadith. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, a woman is married for 4 things, right? We've all heard this. What is she married for? She's married for her beauty, she's married for her wealth, she's married for her status, or she's married for her deen. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, choose her deen, right? Taribat yadak means, it was a phrase that they used to use. They say, otherwise you'll be destroyed unless you choose her deen. Now what do these 4 things mean? Because this is something else. We've dealt with many divorce cases, and inshallah, last week we spoke about zina. This week we're speaking about marriage. In a week or 2, inshallah, we'll speak about talaq as well, divorce as well, because it's something that people, they need to know. But we're dealing with many divorce cases where the parents come and they're shocked, or one of the spouses comes and is shocked and said that I looked for deen. The person was pious. Why is this marriage not working out? So let's understand these 4 qualities that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned. Keep in mind, although Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said marry for deen, he didn't negate the other 3 because he mentioned them. These are still factors that are to be considered. Number 1 is the beauty of a potential spouse. Both spouses, they have to be attracted to one another. So much so that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, despite emphasizing one lowering one's gaze in the Quran and in the Sunnah, when it comes to looking for a spouse, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam encouraged Sahaba, go and look at the spouse, right? Potential spouse. So you'll know that if you're attracted. So attractiveness is something that's important, but at the same time, before a person begins to judge everyone under the sun and assign them, on a scale of 10, there are 10, there are 7, there are 6, there are 5, take a good look in the mirror, because you have to be realistic about that as well. Take a good look in the mirror and be honest with yourself. If you, on this scale that you've set for the entire world, if you're a 5, most likely you're not going to get somebody who's a 10. If you ever get a person who's a 10, they will look down on you and they'll always think, or they'll always let you know that they married down and you married up and you're so lucky for them, I'm really speaking about this, right? So much so, some advice I was given before I got married. Marry somebody who's a little bit lower than you in everything, and your life will be happy, right? Anyway, that's the first thing, beauty. So all of you guys that are looking to get married, don't immediately dismiss everything based off of the picture. The other thing is, look, a spouse, any person, they're going to change. They're not going to look as beautiful as they do or as handsome as they do on the wedding day. They will change. And number two, despite you being married to the most beautiful person on earth, the temptation for others will never go away. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what He does is He gives you a halal outlet, and then the haram will still be attractive to you. And now Allah will see, will you suffice with halal, or are you still going to go to haram? Others will be attractive to you as well. So you don't have to get the most beautiful person in the world, because you know what? There's going to be somebody else who's beautiful, who appeals to you in a different way. Why do you think that these celebrities, who are so beautiful and handsome, they end up cheating on each other as well? The beauty wasn't an issue there, right? It's a fitri thing. But there should be some base level attraction. Number two, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that they're married for their wealth. That wealth can be the girl's own wealth. For example, Khadija radiallahu anha was very wealthy. She helped Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam quite a bit. Or it could be her family's wealth. It could be that marrying into the family means a good career for you, step up for you. There's not anything inherently wrong with that, as long as you're not marrying them to use them. Okay? Number three, for their status. Status can be many things. Status can be a certain profession. Status can be a certain cultural background. It could be something within the background. Maybe in America in this day and age it's kind of dying out. But I would say, because Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam mentioned it, it's not something that should be discounted completely. Why is that? Because when people get married, when a husband and wife get married, it's not just two people that are getting married. Two families are getting married, right? Two families are getting married. And if two people are in that same status, same cultural background, same whatever, it allows each spouse to plug into the other family much easier. So sometimes when your parents tell you it's not going to work out because their background is very different than us, it's not that your parents are absolutely right, but it's worth listening and considering what they have to say, because they've seen this a lot. And even without any differences, problems are inevitable to happen in every marriage. Challenges, I should say, happen in every marriage. The last thing that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to look for is deen. And then Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, choose deen. And he said, be successful through deen. But now what does this mean? Now people misunderstand what is religiosity, first of all. We look at superficial things sometimes. Does she wear hijab? Does she not wear hijab? Does she do niqab? Does she not do niqab? How long is his beard? Is he hafiz? How many times does he go to the masjid? These are all superficial indicators of piety, and inside and outside they'll match, more or less. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَذَرُوا ظَاهِرَ الْإِثْمِ وَبَاطِنَا. Leave internal sins and external sins and internal sins. If a person leaves sins from the outside, inshallah their heart will become clean as well. However, at the end of the day, these are not enough to judge a person's deen on. If you just see the person praying in the masjid, I could be in the masjid, I could be thinking about something else. I could be here because I like some girl. I could be here for whatever reason, right? It's good that you're here, but that's not enough to make a decision on a person. Person is hafiz. Does that necessarily make them religious? No, it doesn't. You have to see. You have to see. It's a very good hufaz. There's very bad hufaz. You have to see. These are all indicators, right? Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he said choose deen, he didn't say don't look at everything else. What he said, if everything is more or less equal and you have two people that you have to choose from, choose deen. But I will say that there's one thing that's even more important than deen. And what is that? Because deen comes under that. That's a person's mindset. You have to make sure that you and the spouse, your mindsets are compatible, because even your religiosity is going to be a function of your mindset. Right? Because what one person considers to be religiosity, another person may not consider to be religiosity. One person may consider, I'm just giving an example. Keeping a full beard is a sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's no debate about that. I'm not talking about wajib, farz, anything. It's sunnah. No debate about that, right? Now sometimes, one family, they may tell me, okay, we're looking for someone for our daughter. Our requirement is that he has a full beard. That's fine, no problem. To them, that is their measure of religiosity. For somebody else, the measure of religiosity may be that the person is coming to salah. For some person, a measure of religiosity may be that somebody goes on tabligh jamaat. For somebody, it could be that you volunteer, in the food pantry. All of these are different measures of religiosity that people assign based on what? On mindset, right? So mindset is something that a person has to look on. Because people that are married here, I'll ask you, do you think that you could really change your spouse's mindset and overall attitude? If you say yes, you're lying. You might be able to change them on a few things here and there, but their general temperament, their general outlook, like a pessimistic person, optimistic person, and these types of things, you're not able to change. At most, you could influence them on factors that they're undecided about, right? So it's very, very important to look and make sure that the mindset is compatible. Most arguments that come in marriages and most breakups that come in marriages, they're based on an incompatibility of mindset. If the mindset is the same, the practice, that can be bridged. That gap in practice can be bridged. Because in every relationship, there's going to be one spouse that's more pious than the other at the beginning. That gap can be bridged if what? If the mindset of both spouses is the same. Also, some of the commentators of the hadith, they say when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said choose deen, it's referring to the person's character. And they say because if the person is pious, if they love your wife, if they love your daughter, what will they do? They will always honor her and respect her. And if they don't like her, they won't harm her, right? That shows a person's character, not just the outward appearance of a person. So these are just some general things to come in mind. I had a few more things. We're running out of time. Inshallah, maybe we'll discuss those next time. And along with that, the important discussion about talaq. What is divorce? What does divorce entail? Many times people, they say things. I'm just going to give you one spoiler alert. People only give divorce when they're angry, okay? Nobody's sitting together happily and just saying, hi, I love you, I divorce you. Nobody does that. So every single instance of divorce, are you going to go online and Google for 3-4 hours and finally find someone to say it doesn't count? No, you won't. Right? You might, but no fatwa is going to change the reality of what you meant at that time and the reality of what's happening between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's also something to be discussed. I know these things are more like a class setting type of thing. But if we have a class, one fraction of the people will come. At least these things, we could bring it to your attention. That's the point of these khutbahs. It's not to solve all of the world's problems. It's to bring the problems and issues to the forefront so we could think about and we could discuss outside. So just to recap, most important thing when looking for spouses is mindset. Also, all 4 of the factors that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned, we should give them some consideration. Lastly, last 2 things, a person must be very realistic about themselves, and a person must also, as a result of being realistic, realize at times I need to be patient because I'm either not physically, emotionally, or financially ready to get married. If ready, then the parents must assist in that case. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all tawfiq. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us all pure. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep our future generations pure and save them from this scourge of zina and illicit relations. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.